Today I'm going to read 5 letters that I got in response to my request that people send me the story of how they woke up. How they woke up to the fact that the world isn't exactly what we thought it was. And the letters today are very varied in theme, although they all do have that one thread running through them. I'm going to just read them exactly as they are written. And one of them is written by a person who is not English, so the wording might be slightly awkward, but I know that you'll understand what the person is trying to say. So without further ado, let's get to letter number 1. The first letter is from Michael. Hi, Polly. Thank you for your work. My wake-up was somewhat gradual and circuitous. At 26, I'm 60 now, I went into a bookstore to look for an Edgar Cayce book. While in the New Age section, I stumbled across Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts. I could only grasp parts of it, but what I did grasp was blowing my mind. Ideas I had no idea existed. I went home with that book, reading it many times. It sent me on a lifelong quest for more. As you know, one leads to another, which leads to 10 more ad infinitum. My thoughts back then centered on, why isn't this stuff even mentioned in school or in the media? It's the most exciting stuff out there, and not a word mentioned in public. So that made me realize something wasn't right with the world. Then I started reading anything nonfiction, governments, wars, people, everything. I remember stumbling across George Soros, and that really got me going on, are there really a bunch of maniacs out there running things behind the scenes? Obviously, the answer is yes. I continue down the rabbit hole. Your videos have been a huge help in my self-education. Thank you. From Michael. That's a great letter. Thank you, Michael. I do completely understand. The first thing for me was the hidden archaeology, the forbidden archaeology. And I wondered, why do they just keep obsessively teaching the same story about the pyramids over and over when there's all this other stuff? Göbekli Tepe and Yanaguni and the Baghdad Battery and all kinds of other things I'm not mentioning. So yeah, I get it. And now I'm interested in reading Seth Speaks, by the way, so thank you for that. All right, next letter. The next letter I'm going to read is an email from Rachel. Hi, Polly. Before I share my story, I want to thank you for all your research. How you tie things together has been enlightening in so many ways. It helped me to learn how to dig deeper and be more awake. I am so happy to have found you. Well, you're welcome, Rachel. Thank you for writing. Here's Rachel's story. My story is probably more pathetic than most. I am a 44-year-old single mom from America. I have never voted. I have always been asleep. I didn't follow politics, and in 2016, I remember Trump talking about the news being fake. I didn't watch the news, so I figured he meant on a very basic level. I am hard of hearing, and it started in my 30s. With that, I had less interest in TV because listening is a chore. I work for a research company with ties to big business. In December 2019, they were sending panicked emails about COVID in China and travel. This made me worried, and it continued into January. March 11th, they sent all 15,000 employees home to work remotely. This terrified me. We had weekly task force meets at work for COVID. I started questioning my daughter's school. I wanted her home. My mother, who is 70 years old, lives with me. She just finished 20-plus weeks of chemo and radiation treatments. I was terrified we'd get her sick. Based on the news, everyone I knew was high risk. 3 weeks after 3/11, a friend sent a video about 5G and how some of the symptoms from that could be the same as the virus. The video was a scientist who was well educated. The same friend sent a video about filming your hospital. I watched it and could not believe what I was seeing. The same hospitals that the news channels claimed were inundated with people were totally empty. I had fallen victim to the video of Elmhurst being apocalyptic. I believed it. I shared it on social media. Then a friend sent me a video by Dr. Shiva. When I saw him connecting the deep state, Fauci, Gates, and Facebook, I was stunned. This is when I started digging. I stumbled on a video of someone who referenced your video about fear-mongering and how you showed the connection of the players. I couldn't stop watching your videos, and I started researching on my own. I started to realize we were being bombarded with propaganda to scare us and cause fights. It blew my mind that on Good Friday, Gates and Microsoft released a video of Marina Abramovich, so I started investigating who she was. This brought me to Pizzagate and Out of Shadows. Pizzagate I figured was fake. What is really bothersome is symbolism keeps reconfirming that it's true. A light truly came on for me, tying all these people together. I realized that the whole thing was a scam, that it was all about control and an elaborate evil plan. I am 100% behind Trump, and I will vote for him. The point is, I was sleeping for 44 years, and when the light came on, my beliefs about a lot of things have changed. I didn't have a religion. I have started to try to read the Bible. I was pro-abortion. Now, after hearing what they do, I am against it unless early on in special circumstances. I didn't believe in God or Satan, but after seeing the things these people do, I have realized that Satan exists, and they want for us not to be religious because they are afraid of God. We are praying. It's weird how the manipulation of information has shaped views in my life. I've realized with all this hiding of truth and false information to control us that anything is possible. With my revelation, I woke up to find my friend of 30 years is a diehard liberal Democrat, and she accused me of being alt-right, homophobic, and racist. What? I have known her my entire life, and she unfriended me. That she'd even question this about me makes me realize these people are crazy. I want peace, equality, and freedom. I hope that others wake up. Thanks for listening. I'd rather be anon or just first name if you decide to mention me. Well, I did mention your name, Rachel. I hope that's okay. And I just want to say the exact same thing happened to me with my best friend of 30 years. Also called me homophobic and racist and other things. It was extreme and it was very hurtful and shocking. So I just wanted you to know you're not alone. It's awful, but the truth is better than keeping false friends. Thank you so much for your story. This next one comes from Jeff. I'm 50, that magical age you aren't a kid and you are supposed to be sage adult that doesn't promote myths, theories, and fairy tales. Now I just look crazy when I go against societal norms. When I was in my 20s, I would have these thoughts about how we were killing children and wondered why we didn't take the knowledge from older generations and learn from them. I never liked science fiction as it was the realm of people who were geeky, but I loved science and space. I grew up in the town George Bush lived and grew his oil business, Midland, Texas. I vividly remember his twins being born and how that was a big deal. And all these things would one day come together. I began watching a YouTuber, Trey Smith, and his work on the Nephilim. I also had a small fascination with the Kennedy assassination. Living very close to Dallas, it was easy to go to the 6th floor museum, take a tour of the Kennedy Trail of Tears, and see the X painted on the street. It was through that research I ran into a documentary called I Shot JFK, The Shocking Truth, 2013, about a convict who said he actually shot Kennedy from the fence behind the grassy knoll. He named names and accomplices. At some point I ran across some other theories, one in particular about child trafficking. It was a Dutch woman who seemed to be credible. By the end of her 10-part documentary, I was nearly sick to my stomach. Is this true? Seriously, can this really be true? My cognitive dissonance was in full throttle. I dug more. I found more links, more research, more evidence. By this time, the information was closing up. Google began to censor. Somehow I latched on to In Pursuit of Truth, iPod. Shout out, iPod is so great. I have used Google and searched since the late 90s, since I have been in technology. I remember the days of Alta Vista Search, the .com guy, and Jennifer Ringley. I even worked for Microsoft in the early 90s and met Paul Allen and Bill Gates. What I learned along the way were 3 rules. 1, governments will do anything to stay in power. 2, businesses are in business to make money. And 3, humans will twist technology to achieve rules 1 and 2. I can remember in October of 2019 waking up and finally seeing that all these things I was interested in were actually not conspiracy theories. They were happening. I don't know how, but I discovered Q and Kim Clement, and the world has been a raging torrent of being awake and frustrated with people not seeing what's going on. I have red-pilled 2 people I know and possibly a third this afternoon. Congratulations, Jeff. That's awesome. The information has been liberating and frustrating all at the same time. I've watched as the country I love has been attacked by Marxists and in the most bizarre of all warfare. My 5 times great-grandfather came to the colonies as an indentured servant, basically a convict that was forced to work for free. He joined the Virginia militia and gained his freedom. His son was a land grant owner in Mexico, which later became the Republic of Texas. My great-great-grandfather was born in the Alabama Territory, moved with his family to Mexico, Texas, and fought for the Confederacy, and had no record he existed until a census in the late 1800s. My grandfather was a Croix de Guerre soldier in World War I. Is this the end of the line for my patriotic family? I hope not. I've sworn my oath to defend the Constitution of the United States and know the words to the pledge and national anthem. Not variations, but the national anthem. And I'm ready to defend my country with my life, if necessary. Jeff, I hope it doesn't come to that. But you're also not alone. I think many understand that there are things worth the ultimate sacrifice. I hope it doesn't come to that. And I'll read an email that came in from Danny. Hi, Polly. May I first introduce myself? I am Danny, 47, flight attendant. Until 2015, I was living in a pink bubble, didn't care about politics and so on. Then in September 2015, the mass migration into Austria began. I own an apartment close to the main train station in Vienna, and I was frightened with all the refugees conquering the station building and surroundings. My apartment is in walking distance to the train station, and I usually commute from there to work at the Vienna airport. I was afraid of those so-called refugees, 90% men, most of them young, stylish with trendy clothes and haircuts, and equipped with the newest smartphones. Within the following months, I sometimes panicked when walking home, returning late from my job, or leaving home very early in the morning. Fortunately, nothing happened to me, but the crime and rapes were rising in the whole of Europe, Sweden, and Germany, and media started to cover it up. This was the time when I began to read books about Islam. I bought the Quran and the Islamic fascism, and I came from one to the other. My awakening literature was, quote, What You Shouldn't Know, end quote, Michael Morris, parts 1-3, about the financial system, geopolitics, and corporations. Since then, I was looking for more and more information and even produced my one and only private YouTube video about Pizzagate. I did a lot of research then. Only reading the migration pack took me a whole weekend. Meanwhile, there are so many people researching and making their knowledge public. That's great. That's it so far. I want to thank you for your great research and your informative videos. You are doing a great job. Greetings to Canada, Danny. Thank you, Danny. Yes, I do believe that was a big red pill for a lot of people too. When our national leaders in so many countries threw open the borders and welcomed people in without any type of vetting or screening or even plan for where these people were going to go. I think that was an act of utter betrayal against all of our nations by the leaders who did that. I really appreciate your contribution and your letter, Danny. Thank you. One more for today, an email, very short email from Mario. Dear Polly, I'm Mario from Germany. I saw your video about Ghislaine Maxwell. There is so much content in it that I had to watch it 3 times. I want to tell you about my red pill. I keep it short. I think you'll have to read a lot. 8 years ago, some of my colleagues wondered that I still thought planes had dived into the towers. I'm technically interested, work in the car industry as an engineer, and have an education as a technical drawer for buildings. So that was a topic which I could research for myself. I've watched videos, searched for pictures and documents, also drawings of buildings and the plane, and 9/11 is a very good red pill point to start from. Molten stone areas, weak aluminum against these steel beams and concrete, analysis from seismic center on opposite of Hudson River, cracked concrete WTC tub. These unaccountable witness stories about explosions in the underground till people who died due to cancer from the debris. I saw an article from a police officer who watched a separate area for the steel beams somewhere outside of the city, I guess, and he explained about one day when some cars arrived and people in big protection suits went out to check something on the steel beams, measured something maybe. I had a lot of impressive moments in my research, and I had to find out how to read media and which media platforms are based on which information. That led me to Atlantic Brook. I don't know what that means, I'm sorry. And then he continues to write, but I think you know all that, what I wrote. I'm so sure that people have to red pill themselves. I've tried so much to pick up my parents, wife, friends, but they are all totally brainwashed by mainstream media. I appreciate your work. Thanks for all your efforts. Go on with it. Sincerely, Mario. Thank you, Mario. And in spite of the language differences we have, I think everybody can understand your message. That when you look critically at an event like 9/11, and especially when you are an engineer and work in that industry, you can see a lot of problems right off the bat. If you haven't heard of them, I encourage everybody to go check out Richard Gage and the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. They've put together a huge package on that, and we're moving forward with some lawsuits last I heard. Thank you so much for sending me these letters. I hope that it was an interesting experience for you all who wrote the letters to hear them read into the record of this crazy time that we're living in. And for the listeners, I hope that, I hope it was somewhat cathartic for you too, that you're not alone, that other people out there are having these thoughts or had these experiences, and more they're bubbling to the surface. That's what I hope to achieve with this letter reading project. So send me your stories. Try to keep them under 2 pages, please. If you don't want me to use your name, please say that right off the bat in the letter so that I don't accidentally use it. And that's about the only rules I have for you. Other than that, if you get something out of this channel, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please note that I do accept donations and contributions through my PayPal account or through my post office box. I will link to those things in the description and the pinned comments so they're easy for you to find. Also, I believe I'm going to be starting to do some BitChute exclusives. BitChute is another video platform like YouTube. I have been on that platform for 3 years, so make sure you look in the description for for my address over there. I'm 99 Free Mind over there. So subscribe if you go, and keep your eye on it to see if I've uploaded any new content. Until next time, everybody. Thanks very much for being here. Peace out.